Hello indie game fans, it's been a while since I did one of these, and boy, let me tell you, I think you'll find the wait to be worth it with banger after banger after banger of upcoming releases, beginning with Altered Alma, a cyberpunk pixel art Metroidvania that looks awesome, having great visuals and some brutal execution animations in a style that is similar to Blasphemous. It is set in Neo Barcelona and is from two awesome studios who are located in present-day Barcelona, where they've used this setting in their other games like Aeon Drive, but this in particular looks to be a breakout hit. It has already been successfully funded on Kickstarter with a couple more days left to go, so check out their campaign for stretch goals and rewards.
We used to be enemies, you know. We used to destroy the world around us. Now we create.
Surprise! Some of you might not have gotten wind of the news that Castle Crashers is getting a new DLC. Yes, that classic title from the Xbox Live arcade days, which was then re-released on Steam in 2012, with the Painter Boss Paradise paid DLC coming soon, allowing you to create your own characters, adding Steam Workshop support, a new character named Paint Jr., and visual upgrades to the characters and assets, so when it's time, why not take this game for another spin? This video is brought to you by 13Z, a 3D hack-and-slash action roguelike inspired by the legend of the 12 Eastern Zodiacs, where of course you are participating in the Zodiac Trials on a quest to become the 13th Zodiac. This is one of the prettiest games that I have seen, with lush, vibrant colours and interesting character and enemy designs. It's a celestial trial in every sense of the word, testing your grit, speed and power as you seek to prove yourself and to take your rightful place. The developers have currently revealed 3 out of 6 playable characters in the Fox, Raven and Panda, each of which play very differently, which provides variety. And in run-based roguelike fashion, if you do fall in combat, you will become stronger through meta progression and permanent unlocks of modifiers, scrolls and so much more, even having co-op support for 2 to 4 players, which is nice to see. They are currently running a global playtest on Steam, so you can join that today and play the game via the link in the description below, and be sure to leave the developers some feedback and wishlist the game. I was also pleasantly surprised by the announcement of Coromon Rogue Planet, the follow-up to one of the best Pokemon-like monster taming RPGs, but of course with a roguelite twist. While the base game had a built-in Nuzlocke mode, a pure roguelite structure is of interest, where you select a Coromon and adventure forward, fighting and taming new creatures along the way, with meta progression in between runs as well, looking like a great twist on the formula, although other developers have tried, like in Abomination, but to a different level of success. I follow the developer of Pompeii the Legacy on Twitter since I do have a soft spot for city building games, and this looks pretty good, which is why it received a substantial number of Steam wishlists upon the launch of their Steam page. Set 20 years after the eruption of Mount Vesuvius and the subsequent destruction of the city, you are now tasked with rebuilding it, climbing up the social ladder in Roman society along the way. It is all classic city building stuff, like constructing buildings, managing resources, researching new technology, dealing with random events and establishing trade with other cities, and looks excellent in that throwback kind of way, but with modern polish. From the developer of Crino Origins comes Crino Rebirth, the high-bit pixel art follow-up to the side-scrolling action platformer, this time also changing genres into a Metroidvania. So given that it looks as good as it does, this is truly a no-brainer pick. I mean, come on, you play as a skeleton wearing a top hat and wielding a scythe, so what's not to love? Mixing fast-paced melee combat with a hand cannon as well as magic. There will be an interconnected world to explore as well as boss fights, checking all the boxes for a game like this, but my god, what a beauty this game is. It is currently on Kickstarter at about the halfway mark as of recording, so give it a look and pledge your support if interested. You cannot see it right now, but I have the largest grin while recording the voiceover for this video, since the games selected are so awesome and showcases what I love about indie games, with the hand-drawn precision platformer Croak being the next title of interest here. This is a gorgeous hand-drawn and animated title that stars a prince who has been cursed and turned into a frog whose long tongue you must master to dash and bounce through the levels to get to the next area, even having boss fights for some reason. Some of the people working on this previously worked on Cuphead as well as Rick and Morty the cartoon, so you can see the quality of art and animation here, and has quickly shot up my personal wishlist for precision platformer titles, and has the potential to be Celeste big in my opinion. There was a little bit of a bait and switch around this title, since from what the developer showed on Twitter, it looked like a Heroes of Might and Magic style game, but then I realized upon closer inspection that Atre Dominance Wars is a 4X strategy game instead, but does have the hero avatar on a horse that leads armies of units as they conquer the land. There are still large-scale battles as you recruit units into your army and attack the enemy, with cities to develop, Heroes of Might and Magic style, as well as spells, crafting and more. It's a pretty game worth keeping an eye on, and comes to us from the developer of The Red Solstice as well, and should be good. The gorgeous hand-drawn Metroidvania Fallen Tier The Ascension is also live on Kickstarter, but is already at almost 4 times its target as of recording. Well deserved, since this is one of the most promising entries in the space. It is a very pretty hand-drawn title that is drawing inspiration from Suikoden, Breath of the Wild, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps, but with a mechanic that looks like Ender Lilies to me as well. As you adventure through the world, you will encounter recruitable allies which you can call upon in combat, and with 22 of them, will provide you plenty of options. Our hero can also transform into a demigod, calling upon a monstrous form for more power, and looks like an excellent one of these. Also of note is that this is from a Filipino developer out of Manila, which is not something that you see every day in the world of indie games, so Southeast Asia represent, and I wish them all the best for development.
You are still a mere student, an apprentice, a novice. Yet you face impossible odds. But you have a gift. You have the foresight.
Here's an interesting title that might look familiar to you, since it has a similar visual style to from 2021, where indeed 4 Strike comes to us from the same developer, but is a different kind of game. The original was an action platformer with a puzzle element, but in this tactical kung fu fighting roguelite, you have the ability of foresight to predict what your enemies are going to do, being able to react and counter accordingly. As such, it is like those fight scenes in Sherlock Holmes.
First, distract target. Then block his blind jab. Counter with cross to left cheek.
But if you do screw up and fail, this is a roguelite, so you get to start another run, looking much better than their earlier title and is promising. If you love turn-based tactics titles, of course you need to keep an eye on War Side, essentially advanced wars in all but name, down to the military theme, capturing of buildings, attack animations, commander powers, and even visual style. So much so that people have accused it of being a clone, and, to be honest, I wouldn't dispute that. However, I don't see any new Advanced Wars games being made, so this could fill a gap. Having a 30-mission story campaign, multiplayer support, and a built-in mission editor as well, looking to have all the features that fans of the genre want, like in Wargroove, and I do like the pixel art here, so I had to give it a mention. A couple of you brought this game up in the comments, so thank you for that, where The Eternal Life of Goldman is one of the prettiest games that I have come across, a hand-drawn action platformer whose entire gimmick is art and animation. You play as the titular character, Goldman, on his quest to defeat a mysterious deity. It is not a Metroidvania, but rather is linear, where you are progressing from one area to the next, but the frame-by-frame animation is simply gorgeous and is a work of art, quite literally. The The developer also went out of the way to say that no generative AI is used in this game, so everything is painstakingly handcrafted, and it shows. Where this looks fantastic, and while linear, you will get new abilities and artifacts as progression, but there is no backtracking. The closest comparison that I can think of is Rise and Shine from 2017, which continues to be super pretty, and hey, see, I do like art styles other than pixel art as well. Tokyo Game Show is next week, so if you are attending, do try to track down this next game since Nightmare Operator released a new trailer for the occasion and it looks awesome. This is a third-person shooter with throwback visuals in which you hunt down yokai in the ruins of Tokyo, mixing survival horror with intense action. I mean, sure, if they put an assault rifle in your hands, that might make the horror parts of the game less pronounced, but there are still some freaky enemy designs and animations that might just turn your pants brown. There is a self-described clutch system in which you can switch between the different weapon modules on your gun with command inputs from fighting games, which I suppose adds some form of tension if you suddenly need to switch when encountering an enemy or while in the heat of battle. In between missions, you will be able to hang out in the izakaya in Quarantine City with the other members of your team, fleshing out the world, where I'm interested in the overall narrative and story structure of this game and is one to watch. I'm also very excited to share this next title since Bloody Hell 2 is the sequel to a completely free game from 2023 that is a must-play. Being a bullet hell action-adventure title with Metroidvania elements, so that means ability unlocks and backtracking. In the sequel, God has disappeared and the angels are in distress, so you, as a little angel, have to destroy hell, this time with the help of a massive demonic hammer which you can use to pulverize your enemies. As compared to the more 3/4 view camera of the original, this game is full isometric and continues to look great, with intense combat as the highlight and should be fantastic as well. Developer Spring Loaded is one of the more notable developers that is based in my home country of Singapore, with their last title, Let's Build a Zoo, being a hit, and they are back with Let's Build a Dungeon. However, this is kind of a meta game in itself, since you are tasked with running a virtual MMO within the game, not only handcrafting the dungeons and towns piece by piece, like in a city builder, but also hiring designers, coders and playtesters while maintaining a live game and keeping your players happy. As such, there are several layers to wrap your head around this game, with the MMO part not just being limited to creating an EverQuest or WoW clone, since you can make a farming-focused MMO, a monster taming one and more, and looks very ambitious, and if they manage to nail it, could be the next big thing. Alright, I'll admit this next title is not quite an indie game, but I have to give Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era a mention, the next entry in one of my favourite franchises of all time, which has been stuck in limbo for 10 years since HOMM 7 released in 2015, and the IP is with Ubisoft, and yet it is coming back, being made by Unfrozen, the developer of Errata's Lord of the Dead, which is a fantastic game. This Heroes title looks like a throwback, ditching the square grid in battle and the 3D environment on the world map as seen in Heroes 5 through 7, going back to the presentation of HOMM 3, which is the game that people always point to, but with modern flair and polish, where I'm so excited for this and I hope is awesome. Watch this video for more of the best indie games.